This video is brought to you by Ageless Geeks.
Cowabunga dudes and dudettes, this is Anthony, aka BatBomb82, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Dorkside. And for this episode, we're going to be reviewing It Chapter 2, probably one of the most anticipated, if not the most anticipated horror movie in years. The first It was very successful and just very well received critically and by fans as a really beloved horror film. And I know I loved it, and now we're going to discuss Chapter 2 here. So I am joined by my co-hosts. First up, we got Will the Thrill. Say what's up, Will.
Hi, everybody. Will is just fine, actually.
Nope, it is Will the Thrill. We have discussed this last time. Next up, we have Adrian 3000. Say what's up, buddy.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
See, simple and straight to the point. That's how it's got to be. All right, so again, we're going to be discussing It Chapter 2, and we'll give this a little ranking system later, but I'm going to run down the movie with you guys, and let's see what we got. And remember, this is a spoiler review. I'm going to be running down the entire movie, breaking it down scene by scene. So spoiler warnings. If you don't want to be spoiled by this, turn this off, come back later, go watch the movie, and then you can come back and listen to this.
And if you're looking forward to the book also, just to let you know, we may just touch up on the book as well. So
that 40-year-old book. So if you're not caught up on that, you should be ashamed of yourself.
A lot of people aren't, though.
Yeah, it's true. It's very, very true.
All right. Is dead.
Yeah. So the opening to the scene, or the movie, starts off with a gay couple at a little carnival going down. One of them wins a little prize, those little like bubble where you shoot the water into the clown's mouth and it blows up a balloon. One of the guys wins a little stuffed animal and gives it to this little girl who is sad that she didn't win. Then the couple starts kissing, and then some of these teenagers, whatever you want to call them, from Derry start getting disgusted and they start talking smack about these guys. So the couple just leaves. They start trying to walk away, and then as they're trying to walk away, sure enough, those teenagers and stuff come around and start beating up on the two guys and just really mess them up pretty bad. And then they throw the one that beat up the worst into the river, and then the other guy goes down. He tries to get his boyfriend, and then that's the first time we really see Pennywise for the film. And all these hundreds of red balloons just start flowing down from the bridge, pouring over the lake, the river, and it was just nuts. And what is the first thing we see?
Oh, well, Pennywise holding, I believe the character name was Adrian.
Yeah. Well, was it really?
Yeah.
Was it Adrian 3000?
No. Well, yeah, Pennywise. One thing I really liked about the movie is that, well, we get a lot of Pennywise.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot of Pennywise. And the fact that when he takes a huge freaking bite out of this guy,
because it looks almost like as if he's trying to save that dude from the river, kinda. Because his boyfriend doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then he's just like kind of blinded by all these balloons, and then sure enough, he like takes a bite out of his chest.
Yeah.
He like bites out his heart or
he does
something
that
like
big
that.
old mouth thing.
And like his 500 teeth come out.
And that's the other thing I like too, is that they don't cut away from those bites that he takes out of anybody.
Yeah,
there's
they
a
dig
lot
in
of
there.
Brutal deaths in this movie, and they don't shy away from. They don't cut away.
Yeah, I love that. So, anyways, from that scene, it obviously becomes a crime scene. And then we shoot to Mike, which is the black kid in the group. He's all grown up now, and he's the only one that actually hasn't left Derry. He pretty much stays there throughout the 27 years. So forcing him to, later on we'll reveal that because he stayed in Derry, it's allowed him to remember everything that's going on, unlike all the other kids. So what Mike does, he starts calling up all the rest of the crew, because apparently he still has their phone numbers and all their cell phone numbers, which is kind of weird. It's like, hey guys, you guys need to come back to Derry. I need you to all come here. Some of them were hesitant. Some were like, who are you? All this kind of crazy stuff. Well, so was that a good way to introduce all the cast?
It's your classic movie intro. It's a great way to bring them back. It's an easy way to bring them back movie-wise. I'm not sure how they did in the books. I'm pretty sure it's almost the same way. Is it really that weird, though, to have, like, old homies, like, numbers from, like, long ago?
I mean, unless they're on Facebook with each other or some shit like that.
It really depends on how they were they actually all just split up.
Is it that I still have, like, some phone numbers from '01 still. Should I delete those at this point? Is what I'm hearing.
I mean, if you don't talk to them,
Yeah.
But so, anyways, throughout these scenes, we kind of see how the kids' lives are as they're adults and how they've grown up and whatnot.
Yeah.
And did you guys notice that? Okay, one of the kids, the kid who had the big fat mom, married a big fat lady.
Oh,
And they even reference that later in the film.
yeah.
That's
They're like
actually
he
the
married
book,
someone
too.
who's like his mom, so it's pretty. And he was such a mama's boy in the movie, their first movie.
One thing I wish they had been able to, I mean, they're not going to be able to because of time constraints, but focus on the movie is that in the books, they focus a lot more on, like, let's say, Bill's wife.
Right,
too.
right.
And on top of that, what was that character that married his mom, basically?
Yeah, Eddie.
Eddie, okay. Yeah, Eddie married his basically someone that resembles his wife. Kind of same thing with Bill in the books. He married someone that actually resembled Bev a lot.
Yeah.
Which, they don't really touch on that too.
Yeah.
Here for the most part. But in the psychology, same as with the book, with the intro with the gay couple too. One thing that
Yes.
they didn't really touch on, I would have liked for them to have touched on, was kind of like the more into the investigation of it, when they go with the book.
Yeah,
itself.
yeah. And I understand why they didn't do it, but it would have been cool to see that. What I also realized is that even Beverly married an abusive dude who was abusive like her father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So obviously all these kids took their issues as kids and took them with them as adults and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, and of course, because they don't remember anything from their childhood, they probably have no idea why they made all any of these
Exactly.
choices.
They don't remember maybe their abusive relationships and their
Yeah.
mommy problems and all
I
that stuff.
definitely would like them to focus more on Bill's wife. She was in the story more, and she actually could have served a lot more into the story purpose, along with the whole love triangle going on.
Yeah, I could
too.
definitely see that. Okay, so moving forward, we actually find out that Henry, which was the psychotic kid who
Henry
was
Bowers.
going around bullying the other kids and carving into the fat kid's stomach and stuff like that. He carved a H, right, in his stomach in the first one.
Well, he was about to carve his whole name.
Yeah. So we find out he survived that fall from the first film, and now he's in an insane asylum and still crazy. And now Pennywise is showing himself to him, pretty much calling him back to Derry and say, "Hey, you got unfinished business in Derry. I need you to come kill a bunch of people," and that's exactly what happens.
I love the way he does it with, I believe the guy's name is Hockstetter.
Yes, his old homie with the long hair.
That was
he
pretty
comes
friggin'
back as
hilarious.
like this zombie ghoul, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" Even
Yeah,
though he's-
just to be his ride, basically, the whole movie.
I want to say the original
that
version,
was
it
so
was
meta.
Belch.
I loved that. That was really, really cool.
Yeah, I want to say it was a character in the original movie. It was called Belch, the character that.
That
followed him
sounds
around,
more
too.
accurate to that era of film.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So then we move forward to the kids kind of getting ready to pack up and leave and head back to Derry. Then we hit to a scene with Stanley.
Okay.
With Stanley, and he pretty much, I don't want to say chickens out because we find out what happens later. He decides to kill himself in the tub. He slits his wrists, and he's just too scared, and he knows he's too scared to head to Derry. And again, we'll talk about that more in depth later. But Stanley doesn't actually make it back, but the rest of the kids do. So now we move on. All the kids arriving to Derry, or adults now, I should say. The losers, I'll just call them that. The losers get back to Derry, and they're kind of meeting up and saying what's up, and hey, I haven't seen you, blah blah. But then we arrive to the restaurant scene at this like Asian restaurant, which is a classic scene in the original movie and a classic scene in the book. So how did you guys feel about the more modern scene?
I liked it. It wasn't too much different in terms of story structure.
Not really.
It's
No?
pretty much the same, just a different payoff, and that payoff was really worth it.
Do you remember the scenes from the original movie?
You know what? I want to say, if I remember correctly, there was there wasn't so much paid attention to the dinner scene.
Uh-huh.
It was all the post scenes after the dinner. Like I think Pennywise messed with them in their bedroom separate after they had separated.
Well, no, he messed with them at the table in the original movie. And I noticed as soon as they brought out the fortune cookies, I was like, oh no, here come the fortune cookies. And I think in the original movie they turned into like these little crabs, like because they use the fortune cookies as like shells, and they start crawling around the table and stuff like that. But this one was way gnarlier because we had this little like spider with a baby head and like this like fly thing, these
eye with tentacles,
the little eye that was crawling around,
a chick fetus cracking out of the the fortune cookie.
It was just way gnarlier than the original film, and I loved it. And I actually really dug the dialogue amongst all the characters because they're kind of getting to know each other, and they're slowly remembering things, because they're back in Derry now, and they're starting to slowly remember things from their childhood, their relationships with each other.
They really sell it, by the way.
They really do.
I want to say in the original film, they remembered everything right off the bat. There was
almost instantly,
right?
instantly, yeah. And even Bill starts getting his list or stutter back as he comes back, but he didn't have the stutter once he was like in Hollywood or wherever he was, as growing up. Now he's back in Derry. It slowly starts coming back a little bit. By the end of the film, it's like pretty heavily, stutters have it pretty heavily back. But I love that scene. The dialogue, Bill Hader cracking jokes and cracking on people was hilarious. And that whole scene where they're walking out of the restaurant, and the little boy, we meet a little boy, and he walks up to Bill Hader and he says, I forgot exactly what he says. But it's like, oh, things are going to get crazier here, or something like that.
Let the fun begin.
Yeah, something like that. And then Bill Hader's like, I don't know who the hell you are. I don't trust you, because he thinks it's Pennywise screwing with
avatar,
him.
Yeah.
But no, it's a real kid who is just a fan because Bill Hader is a comedic actor in the film, just like in real life. So he was just a fan of Bill Hader, and it kind of freaks the kid out, and his parents pull him away and blah, blah, blah. It was a really cool scene. So they walk outside. And then I
think the kid's name is Dean, actually.
That probably sounds about right. Yeah. So all the kids all the losers walk outside, and they're pretty much like, you know what? Everything we just saw right now in the restaurant is BS. We're not dealing with this. We're all gonna leave. We're gonna split, and we're not dealing with any of this. We're not about to fight some Pennywise, blah blah blah. So, but then Mike pulls Bill aside and he's like, man, let me show you this. I really got to show you. Trust me. If this doesn't urge you to stay, then you can leave, but let me show you something. So he takes him back to his home, and then shows him this like little, I don't know what it was, like it was a gourd of some type, from like a Native American people that used to live on the land that Derry was built, and it had all these engravings, which pretty much showed the history of Pennywise. And then we get this really cool, like, not necessarily flashback, but what would you call it? Because he basically drugs Bill to see visions.
Basically exposition.
Yeah, he sees these visions of how Pennywise came about to Earth, I guess you could say, and then how the Native Americans said stopped him. And then Bill sees these visions, and he totally starts believing Mike, and he's like, dude, what the hell is happening? And that's how Bill stays, and they end up talking to the rest of the losers into staying, which is pretty cool. Then we move on to the scene where they're in like this hotel, and they're talking about how they find out Stanley actually died, because they call up his wife, and sure enough, the wife says that Stanley killed himself the previous day. And then Beverly reveals that she foresaw him killing himself in a bathtub because she has this thing, what's called deadlights, which Pennywise stared into her eyes from It Chapter 1, and had this light projecting from his face into her, and she can see visions now somehow because of that. And then that kind of freaks everyone else out, and then you find out it's because of these things called deadlights that happened to her from the first movie.
Little known fact, deadlights are actually featured in other of his works too. Like, they're pretty.
Oh, that's right, huh?
Oh yeah,
that is right. Yeah. So they're talking about trying to remember things and going around Derry and finding things out. So they stumble upon their clubhouse that's kind of like hidden in the woods. And then we get a flashback of the kids when they were younger. Now, how did you guys like the scene?
The cabin scene?
In the clubhouse.
The clubhouse.
Oh, yeah, the little clubhouse.
Yeah. I liked it a lot.
They're putting on the hairnets and stuff like that.
It was very sweet. It was a good homage to the kid that ended up killing himself.
Yeah.
Because that was the first told him that they needed.
He was a big part of that scene as a kid, and I don't know if you guys knew this, but in all these scenes with the kids, they're all de-aged. Did you know that?
Are they? Are they
yes.
far older in real life?
Well, I mean, kids age quickly.
Yeah.
Because they're still growing.
But they did that whole like.
But they had to
and those are still the same kids, just de-aged.
Same kids, just de-aged. Okay.
It's getting scary how good they're getting.
Oh, here's the thing. I noticed with the chubby kid, I didn't notice all that much with the rest of the kids. The chubby kid was like, oh, that is clearly like CGI de-aging.
Really?
But yeah, it was very easy.
His face did look a little weird.
When they're talking and you can see their mouth like not fully moving to the words.
I guess I have to see an updated picture because they must have just sprung up.
And I only noticed it even more because I heard that that happened. And I think maybe if I didn't know, I probably wouldn't have noticed as much.
I didn't.
But with the chubby kid, I noticed, I was like, oh yeah, he is de-aged. But the rest of them was like, damn, I don't see any de-aging. Like,
well, look at some of the other de-aging in other films too. They're getting amazing.
Yeah.
Let alone Captain America, how they did his body.
Yeah. So That was a really good scene. I just like the dialogue with the kids, and I think a lot of the flashbacks with the kids is probably some of the best parts of the entire movie.
Oh yeah, I love how they did that. I love how they integrated the young kids and the adult versions of them in the story at the same time. And later on in the movie, how they kind of start connecting with their younger selves too.
Right.
I like all the. I mean, just overall in the movie, I love all the transitions from between past and present.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Because that's one thing I didn't like in the older film. I want to say they didn't really flash back as kids too much.
Yeah, they had some, but just not
nearly as much,
enough.
and it kind of made you miss that original crew of kids.
Yeah,
I like that it wasn't just flashbacks that we've already seen either. Like they gave us a reason to go back.
They give you untold stories of like what happened. And
So I like that a lot.
So after this, they kind of realize that they need to try and, or Mike tells them they need to remember more about their history and more about their stories as kids, so they could put these puzzle pieces together in order to realize how to beat Pennywise. So they kind of start going off in their own scenes. And then this is where we get Beverly going back to her old apartment or house or whatever it was, and we get the old lady scene.
This was
Good old
by
Miss
far,
Kirsch.
by far, I want to say my favorite scene in the movie.
Okay, so the first thing we actually find out is that she's looking for her father because she thinks he still lives there, and the old lady reveals that he's dead. He died years ago. And obviously Beverly didn't know that because they've been estranged, and so this is all news to her. The old lady lets her in. She's exploring the house, and the lady looks a little off, and I'm going to let you go ahead and describe the scene a little better.
Okay, so we got Beverly. The old lady, I believe her name was Mrs. Kirsch, lets her into the apartment, and the woman is very off-putting, the old lady, Mrs. Kirsch.
She's already sweaty and creepy, and
And while they're talking, her and Beverly, you see her, Mrs. Kirsch, kind of fan herself off with a shirt and revealing some nasty ass scar in the middle of her
welts
chest.
and things like that.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it was gross.
There too, and of course everybody from the trailers with the big paws.
Yeah.
After like nothing dies down here, and then just stares at her for like a good minute.
That classic Pennywise zone out.
So, yeah, then she says like, let me make you some tea, and Beverly's like, no, you don't have to. And she's like, would you say, oh, stop being so polite.
Yeah,
and
that
then
was pretty funny.
Then she just walks off, and she goes in there, and Beverly starts looking at the pictures, and she's like, and then the lady from the next room, she's like, oh, my father ran away to be with the circus. And then I don't know if that's really supposed to be her father, but obviously they go up to a picture that's on the wall, and it's clearly Pennywise. And again, I don't know if that was just Pennywise screwing with her, or if maybe Pennywise is the father of this old lady and this is history. I kind of think that maybe Pennywise took the form of that guy who was a real person, and Pennywise more took the form of that person. You think that's what it could be?
I'm more just that Pennywise is lying.
Just screwing with her.
Everything's fabricated.
Because while Beverly's looking at the wall and all this stuff around her house, you see the lady in the background going back and forth.
Oh, just doing some really
peeking
evil
around
stuff.
peeking around the corner, just staring at her. And then there's one scene where she just walks around naked real quick. And I'm like, whoa, what is happening? And then that crazy scene where this big 8-foot tall zombie lady.
It was a witch.
With the boobies dangling, and it was just nuts, and it scared the crap out of a lot of people.
Apparently in the books it's more Hansel and Gretel like.
That makes sense.
So
So
she's a witch.
This is probably one of my favorite scenes because it was one of those that caught me off guard. They bamboozled me with the trailer.
Right,
Because I just assumed there was going to be a regular old naked lady running at her, already dead. I'm like, oh, Stephen King and his naked old dead ladies,
because in the trailer it shows something else.
Yeah, and then when this huge freaking lady just busts out the freaking hall from the kitchen, that blew my mind. I was not expecting that.
Half old lady, half ogre.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, so one thing that they don't put in the movie, it might have been in the movie, it might have been referenced, I'm not sure, but obviously because the books are able to add more detail, Beverly does realize that halfway through her tea session they're drinking sewer water.
Yeah.
In the books, like it's not sewer water per se.
I think that could have been a really
crap.
cool touch.
Like it's crap.
Yeah,
that could have been a really cool touch. I wish we could have left in.
There's a few things that they left out from the book that would have been great for the movie. But we'll get to that a little later on.
So Beverly ends up leaving. She just splits, and she ends up being chased out by Pennywise.
Well, after she recovers her token that she has to sacrifice.
That's right. Which was the letter given to her by
Ben. I want to say
by Ben. That's
who
right.
She thinks might be Bill.
Exactly. She finds it in the wall, basically.
I didn't realize that the whole time she had no idea who wrote the letter.
I could have sworn they had taken care of that in the first movie. That Ben.
Well, then again, they're all still barely getting their memory back the whole time.
Yeah,
well, I think wasn't it a secret love letter the whole time?
No,
I thought it was. It was signed as secret admirer.
But she put it together in the first
I
film.
could have sworn he had confessed to it.
Okay.
already.
Yeah.
I want to. We have to go back and see that film.
All right. So in the next
Again.
scene, after Beverly leaves, we get the arcade scene with Richie, and he's playing the original Street Fighter, not even Street Fighter 2, the original Street Fighter, at the arcade with one of the other kids there. Then here come Henry and his bully of friends, and they pretty much talking smack. And then the kid he's playing Street Fighter with was like backs off right away because he sees these bully kids, and they pretty much accuse Richie of being gay. And we don't really get an answer to this, just straight off the bat. We really don't get an answer. But Richie just kind of looks at them and like they start calling him a bunch of exploitive deletives. And he just pretty much runs out of the arcade.
Richie started hitting off with this kid.
Yeah, they were getting along and hanging out and stuff.
And he was like, well, you want to play some more? When the
Yeah,
kid started shying away as soon as he saw the bullies, it turns out that he was the cousin of Henry Bauer, the main bully.
Yeah,
anyways.
it just happened to be.
Yeah.
So then he goes to this little park area, and they have this big old statue of like a lumberjack. I forgot who it was exactly, but Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
And then the statue comes to life, and that was one of the gnarliest scenes ever.
It was one of the more over the top scenes I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, and but it was crazy because he's in the middle of a park. This statue is like 20 feet tall, and then it obviously Pennywise reveals himself in this scene, freaking him out and talking all kinds of smack to Richie. He's like, "I know your secret. I know your dark secret, Richie." Blah blah blah. And then all these people behind him at the park start dancing with Pennywise and stuff. I was losing. I was like, this is the best thing ever.
That's also, for me, that's also a small throwback to the first chapter where they're kind of like, there's that stage in the first movie and you see that clown up there, and all of a sudden, like in the background, you see that clown from the first movie just staring at the group of kids as something's going on. In the forefront.
Yeah, totally.
One of my favorite things in these movies is to watch the background characters.
Yes.
They're always doing something.
Yeah,
they're always doing something.
So after his scene, we go on to Billy's scene, and Bill. And then he's walking down the street in Derry, and he sees his pawn shop. And in the window of the pawn shop is his old bike, his old Schwinn from back when he was a kid. Now he walks into the pawn shop getting ready to buy his bike, and who is the clerk? Nothing more than Stephen King. That is amazing. That is a cameo that I did not expect. As soon as I saw the clerk, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And now it would be really cool if Stephen King could do this all in his modern films, kind of like Stan Lee did with all the Marvel films. He should just make a quick cameo in all of his modern films. I think it would be cool. So what do you guys think about that?
I want to say he's made it in his past films. Like he's shown up in that one Rose Red one from that TV movie.
I remember.
Yeah, he shows up on that.
About, yeah.
He showed up on the TV remake of The Shining.
Which was garbage.
He liked it better than the actual movie.
Yeah, he's full of it.
Then again,
he doesn't know anything.
He knows nothing.
I'll say this: as much as I love Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, it really is just a show. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
I highly suggest, if you haven't seen it, see The Shining first, then read the book. Both are completely amazing, but both are completely separate from each other.
Yeah. So it was really cool. He ends up buying the bike.
Yeah.
Buys it for he's like, you're a famous writer, because he recognized he had his book on the counter.
This is probably Stephen King's way of just this is how I feel the audience is. Like, they think I'm a big shot, right? I can afford anything I want. And everybody wants to shit on my ending.
I was going to ask you that. Now, do you think, because the ending for it, especially the original adaptation...
Well, let's not talk about that now.
Right.
We'll save that for later.
But one quick thing I want to ask, though. Do you think all the jokes about Bill's inability to write a good ending is...
I think it's part of it. Yeah, it's kind of...
now, do you think it's a shot
semi-autobiographical?
At the original book ending? How people were kind of a little confused by it at first?
Maybe.
Or maybe just talking about the original adaptation.
Because that was a weird adaptation ending.
I think it's him in general, to be honest with you.
Yeah, just any of his works. I think a lot of people have problems with this.
You know what? Yeah. I'm remembering the ending of The Shining right now.
No.
Can't remember what the heck.
So anyways, we move on. He goes onto the street, and then he actually sees the drain where his little brother was killed by Pennywise, and he starts going down there. He starts hearing his little brother calling him. He almost gets sucked in there by Pennywise while these little hands start grabbing at him. That was really creepy. So then he pulls out, and sure enough, he sees the little boy again that was in the restaurant scene.
Dean.
And he starts seeing the kid, and he starts yelling at the kid, don't go near that well or no the drain. There's a crazy clown in there, blah blah blah. And he starts shaking him, and I was like, dude, this guy's gonna come off really creepy right now. But then the kid is like, I hear the voices too, but they're in my sink, in my drain, in my bathtub, blah blah blah. And he's like, what? You hear them too? And it's like, you need to leave this town, blah, blah, blah. You need to get out of here.
It really goes to show the influence of Pennywise over that city.
Yes,
yeah, I was going to say, that's one thing I like. That wasn't just about Pennywise just going after the losers. No, while he was doing that, he's still going around just terrorizing the entirety of that city.
Everybody, yeah.
So I was like, oof.
So then the kid is like, you know what? No, I got the carnival to go to. I got to get out of here. So he splits. Then the next thing we get is Ben scene at the school. He visits the school as an adult now. Then we get this flashback scene to him as a kid in this classroom. They were like watching a movie. I don't know if it was like detention or whatever that was. Then we get Beverly coming in. She starts smoking. He's like, they're kind of like hitting it off in a little scene. There's talking and kind of semi-flirting. Then they go in for a kiss, and she's like, whoa. I would never date a fat ass like you.
That got me first.
It hurt my feelings. Like, oh, dude, got blocked. Friend zoned, man.
Was that the only one that realized who that really was?
Well, yeah, my friends will realize it in a second. But for that second, I was like, oh, like, fat kids, I get it. But then you realize that Beverly was actually Pennywise. And she turned into freaking Ghost Rider with her head skull flaming up. And started chasing him all around. And he ran down the hall, couldn't get out, blah, blah, blah. And then just more chasing scenes. That's pretty much all these individual scenes are, just Pennywise chasing down the kids and adults and stuff like that. So I thought it was actually really cool. It was really fun. And somehow that big-ass kid fit in the locker. My big ass never would have fit in the locker back in the day. And I was a big kid.
The only thing unrealistic about
this movie, right?
Is that
obviously, you were never bullied as a kid in the shows.
I bullied him. No, I was playing. So after this scene, we actually get Eddie's scene, which is in the pharmacy. Now, he goes in the same pharmacy that's been there forever, where he would always get his placebos, because that's kind of what his whole spiel with his mom is. His mom always made him seem out to be sick. I forgot what that thing is actually called.
Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Something like that. Yeah. So it ends up being the exact same clerk that worked there from 27 years ago. He's all old and decrepit and kind of creepy now. And
the same freaking girl.
And the same daughter, Stuart, but she's like in her 40s now.
By the way, she never changed her style.
And she still dresses like she's in the 80s. I noticed that too. She had the big hoop earrings and whatnot. And I just thought all that was really, really cool. But so anyways, we get to the part where Henry is at his hotel, or at the hotel where all the losers are kind of staying. And he's in a restroom, and who pops up? Henry. And Henry stabs, is it Eddie? Eddie, right? Yeah,
Eddie.
He stabs Eddie literally in the mouth. In his cheek, in his mouth. And he stabs him with the same knife that he actually killed his father with, because Pennywise gave him back that knife. And he stabs in the mouth, and Eddie pretty much tries to fight him off and stabs him in the chest like 6 times. And Eddie kind of escapes, runs downstairs to see some of the other losers, and they're like, oh, Henry Bowers is upstairs, as has this freaking knife wound in his face. And we find out that Henry escapes out the window, and sure enough, Ben, was it the chubby kid? Ben? Is that Ben?
Yes.
Ben sees him, and he gets a quick flashback of Henry carving his name into his stomach as a kid, and he's like, oh, I'm going to get this bastard at some point, which was really cool. It's like, oh, yeah, it's going to go down. I really, really love that. So then after this, Henry kind of gets away for a bit. Then we go back to the new, the carnival, and then we realize that Bill's like,
Canal Days Festival.
Is that what? It was something
Festival.
about a beaver too, or something like that.
The beaver, like their thing.
That's their
The local mascot.
So Bill's like, I gotta go save that kid because I know Pennywise is after that kid. So now he finds a kid at the carnival, and the kid is going into the fun house, and sure enough, Bill chases him and follows him into the fun house. And the first thing I notice is these clown dolls rocking back and forth, and they look exactly like the vintage Pennywise from the first movie. Yeah. I was like, I see what you did there.
I did not catch that.
I noticed it right off the bat. I was like, that's a little hint, nod to the original movie. So then he's chasing him in the funhouse, and sure enough, they get to this hall of like mirrors. It's a total maze, and he finally gets to the kid, and he just needs to get through a sheet of glass, or a window. Yeah, glass basically is what it is. But then Pennywise is on the other side, and they're both like banging windows or glass to try and get to the kid before one another. And Pennywise is banging his head harder and harder, faster and faster. And Pennywise, sure enough, breaks his head through the glass and literally just bites this kid, like, in, I don't know if he bit him in half, because as soon as he bit down on the kid, blood splatter all over the glass, and you couldn't see jack except guts and blood. And I was like, dude, they just slaughtered that poor kid.
Once again, they did not cut away.
They held on to it. And sure enough, Pennywise just kind of laughs and leaves, and Bill's just like, oh my god, I couldn't save the kid. After that, we move on to a good scene with Stanley. This is a flashback scene of Stanley at the church, because Richie decides to go visit. He's walking by Derry and he sees the what is it called?
It was a synagogue.
Synagogue. There you go. And he's like, I'm gonna go visit the church because that's the church that we used to go to when we were kids. And then Stanley gives this scene at his christening or whatever it was.
His bar mitzvah.
Well, yeah, it's a bar mitzvah ceremony. It's like, I'm of a man now, I think something like that.
Yeah.
Coronation or correlation, whatever you want to call it. And then he starts giving this he starts off giving this spiritual thing, but then he goes off to I will always be a loser, and I will always care about my friends. We'll always be here for each other. But it was actually a really cool scene, and just seeing Bill Hader kind of remembering that whole speech because he was there, and how he kind of cussed out his rabbi. I was like, oh my god, that was really funny and really ballsy, and I think it was just a really good scene. And it's that scene, and throughout the entire movie, you kind of see scenes like that with Stanley, and it kind of shows that he's kind of the heart of this whole film, even though he's technically not in the film because he kills himself off right at the beginning. And then you find later on, again, we'll discuss that a little more later, but you find out he's a big part of the losers. We just don't realize it. We just get little flashbacks here and there that show that he was a big part of this group.
Oh, yeah.
So then we go to a scene with Mike in the library, and he's going through some books and trying to look up more references on how to, kill Pennywise and the history of Derry and things like that. And then sure enough, Henry pops out, and he tries to kill Mike. He takes the knives, tries to stab him, and Mike's fighting him off. And then sure enough, who comes to kill him? Richie comes from behind and stabs the dude in the back of the head, and Henry is dead. And okay, to be honest, I was a little disappointed at that. What about you guys? Because I thought he was going to last a lot longer.
Well, I mean, I always figured he dies, right?
I figured he would. I knew he was going to die, but I thought he was going to last a lot more longer. You know what I mean? And I thought he was going to be more of a nuisance to the losers. To be honest with you.
No, I figured at some point they had to kind of get rid of him.
Yeah. And like I said, I just thought it was going to happen much later because he really only stabbed the one dude.
He stabbed Eddie in the cheek,
and then that's it.
Well, killed his dad in the last movie.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in this one, and that's really all he did.
I want to say he didn't do much other than terrorize him a little bit more than that.
Yeah, that's really nothing.
I know Eddie, I think, kills him in the book. I want to say that in the book, he definitely puts Mike in the hospital. So it's a little bit more different.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was really good scene.
So,
for me, it was just another great moment for Bill Hader to steal a scene.
No, yeah. No, right? Yeah, Bill Hader.
Especially right when he kind of saves the day type of moment. He's trying to okay, I got this. No, I don't. And then I'll just
starts throwing
away.
Yeah. So and even Beverly comes in. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And and Bill Hader's like, "Of course I'm not okay. I just killed a guy." And she's like, "I'm not even talking to you. What are you talking about?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So anyways, so pretty much the crew gets together and they realize we need to go do this now. We need to get our shit together and we need to go kill Pennywise now. So they all go back to the haunted house from the first movie, and Bill's gonna go by himself, and so they all kind of have to follow him, and then they all
try hard.
Yeah, I know. It's just gotta be the hero.
Sees one kid die, has to go sacrifice himself like a child.
What have they been pushing the entire movie? Like, we gotta stick together. Bro.
Yeah. So they get together. They have a cool little pep talk amongst the dialogue. Again, is just really good between all the characters. I love the dialogue in this movie.
The writing was really good.
It was
in both films.
Excellent. Very, very good. And so they kind of give themselves a little pep talk, and so they pretty much go inside. And then, it's really creepy, even more decrepit than the first film. And then they kind of get separated within the house because the doors start closing off behind them. And then three of the losers get stuck in one room. And then they start hearing this banging in a fridge, and then and the door slowly opens up, and it's Stanley as a child, all frozen and contorted, and he pops out, and you see his head roll off, and then the other losers are freaking out. Like, dude, his head. But he's talking. He's talking to the losers, and he's just kind of like joking with them, and he's like, "You weren't there for me," blah blah blah. And then what happens? He starts sprouting spider legs from his ears,
like straight
and
up
his
from
eyes.
the thing.
Yeah, it was gnarly, and then they're fighting off this Stanley spider head thing,
Now,
kicking it around like a soccer ball.
Did you get the reference?
As to mean compared to the
The spider.
The original?
No, it's not even a Stephen King reference.
what do you mean?
That's an homage to The Thing.
Well, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I was
That's, that's what you just said. Yeah.
Especially with the whole you gotta be effing kidding me.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a really wicked scene. I really dig it. And then the other losers, like they get separated in the house. Beverly gets stuck in the restroom, like kind of like in the first movie where
the
she gets stuck in the
bathroom
restroom
stall.
and she's getting bullied, and the whole restroom stall can start filling up with blood, like it's gonna drown her. Ben starts goes back and gets trapped into their clubhouse, and the dirt and the sand starts raising, so he's like going to be sunk in like sand, and they're dying, and they're trying to like tell each other, like fight it off, that it's just an illusion, that it's not can't really hurt them. And then they kind of get the scene where like they're kind of slowly show the relationship and the bond between these two characters, and how they're really more than just friends, and how they actually care about each other. So they kind of save each other from each other's personal hell, which I thought was really cool, and I thought it was excellent how they did that. And it gets in. Not one really saved the other; they kind of just saved each other in that scene. I thought it was really, really well done.
Brought each other back to reality.
Yeah. So after all that, after they all kind of get out of those little rooms, can't forget the other one where was it Richie and Eddie? They go into the 3 doors.
Oh, that was an amazing.
And then,
Okay, so the doors is just 3 doors labeled. It's a classic like gag that you would see in Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
One door said not scary at all. The middle door said scary. The door to the right said
very, very scary. Yeah.
So our logic, we put ourselves in the head. What do? We go the opposite because we know the monster wants to mess with us.
He even says, "He's like, no, Pennywise is screwing with us. Let's go very, very scary."
Yeah.
And
when he opened the door, it was very, very scary.
Yeah. Like it was not. He's not screwing with us.
Dancing legs was that's gonna stay with me for a while.
Yeah, dude. The whole open torso was missing.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was it?
The little
dancing like, where's my shoe?
Yeah. So then they go to like, okay, well let's try. It's not scary at all.
Because he's not messing with us. He's not messing with us.
Yeah. So enough. What do we see? A cute little teacup Pomeranian. I was like, oh my god, I want that dog.
You mentioned that earlier, talking about the whole ritual of like being what you want it to be. He
Yeah.
said like, well, I hope his true form's a dog, like a little Pomeranian.
Yeah.
So that's a little throwback to that.
So at this time, they're running around and trying to like get through there, but then the Pomeranian turns into this demon dog thing and becomes
people
like
are doing
7
some
feet
tricks.
tall. Yeah, and it was just really nice. They're like, screw this. So they close all the doors and they start running the opposite direction.
When Pennywise is the safer option.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was one of my favorite lines is when they're both running away and Eddie is saying, okay, next time we go through just regular scary.
Yes.
And Hater's like, what do you mean next time?
Oh, we're planning on doing this again? Yeah. So after all this is done, they start going deeper into the sewer, the well that was in there. They start making their way inside. Then Beverly hears like this voice calling to her from behind. It turns out being that same lady demon monster from the old lady scene.
Miss Kirsch.
Yeah, she comes back and tries to drown her. The other losers try to save her while Eddie's still there. Like he's too scared. You could tell he's clearly scared.
That attack by Miss Kirsch, was that? Are we sure that was Pennywise, or is that once again just her being her? Like, is she a monster of Pennywise?
I think that was Pennywise.
that was
Definitely.
Pennywise.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was a quick scene. Beverly ends up getting saved. Then they try and go deeper into this well, and Beverly gives Eddie this spear kind of thing. That's a part of the fencing for that place. And then she's like, "Here, this will give you courage. This thing kills monsters if you believe it can." And he goes, "Thank you, Beverly, and let's go down." So they go down there and fight, or to deeper into this little hole or labyrinth, whatever you want to call it. And then Bill, no, not Bill. What's his name? Mike takes him to this, like, I guess is the spot where Pennywise landed millions of years ago, and it's like this crater type thing, and they take Mike takes the rest of the crew to the center of this like crater, and they start performing this ritual where they get that gourd like thing that he showed Bill. and then he starts a fire inside the gourd, and then they start taking all their trinkets of their past, and they have to put these trinkets inside this fire to say burn away their old pasts, their old hurts. It's kind of like when you're in a relationship and you want to burn all your ex's things. That's pretty much exactly what they're doing. Say they do all that, and they start, apparently these 3 lights start glowing, which are the dead lights.
The dead lights, yeah.
And they start glowing, they start coming down, and basically they tell each other, Mike says to everybody, don't look at the lights, don't look at the lights. And then he starts making all of the losers say this chant, turn light into dark, turn light into dark. And that's all they're doing as these lights are coming down, and all this crazy stuff is going down. And sure enough, the lights go into the gourd, and everything seems really cool, really calm. And then you realize in a few seconds that a red balloon starts blowing up, inflating from the gourd. Yeah, from the gourd. He's trying to put the lid on, and the balloon starts inflating, and it just becomes huge to the point where they have to leave the crater because the balloon is getting so large. It pops, and sure enough, there's Pennywise. And what happens? Pennywise starts showing more of his true form. He grows into like a 30-foot giant, starts sprouting his spider crab legs and stuff like that again. I like this design a lot better than the original film. I don't know about you guys. Because the original design of the film was stupid. It really was.
I'll say I never finished fully watching the original It.
Uh-huh.
But I hear horror stories about what that ending was.
Yeah.
All I can say is but I thought they did it pretty well this time.
Yeah.
Stephen King and his weird endings.
Yeah.
But for me, I liked it, but I did kind of miss the fact that, if I remember correctly, of the original movie, they really didn't show the monster too much. It was more left up to your own imagination. And Pennywise's true form as a demigod is kind of left up to your own. The human brain cannot conceive the horrors of how he truly looks like.
Yeah.
Here they actually did give him a face. They gave him a look, and once again, it kind of goes with the rest of the movie that they did not shy away, they did not hold back, they got pretty fantastical with some of the monsters here.
Yes,
especially in broad daylight, which
but you know what?
never
I
see in a
love
horror
that.
Film. Yeah, no, I'm saying that as a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Which it was still scary, but what else could you do? Like, anything will take away a little bit from our imagination, so our imaginations can truly.
Yeah, it's an old story.
Yeah.
Anybody who's a fan's probably already read it, and if not, they've already seen the old original adaptation of it. So, what can you do?
And I do understand that newer generations or newer moviegoers need to kind of see that payoff more than anything else. Right. So I did like it though. I really did like it. It was a scary monster for what it was.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
definitely.
Because how are you going to do an unspeakable monster?
Yeah,
that's very well done. I honestly thought it was probably one of his creepier. Anytime he's giant is pretty freaking scary.
Yeah.
And then, the losers start running away from Pennywise, and they're in this like cave-like crater thing. It's really, really weird. But then they kind of like split off into these different like caverns. So the group kind of splits up a little bit, and they all kind of have individual scenes, really good dialogue scenes, and each scene basically gives them courage and them talking themselves up and saying, "We can do this. We can kill Pennywise," but they're still really scared. Should they just escape and try and do this when they're like? Well, they even made a joke about, I'm supposed to come back when I'm 78 and try to kill him. Like, no, it's not going to happen. Like, we're going to do this now. So they're pretty much these little scenes that pretty much talk themselves into, dude, we're going to do this now.
And one of those scenes I want to touch on that I thought was really good was the one with Bill back in his basement. He emerged
with his little brother.
It's key moments from the first film and from the past too. And one key moment that Bill has to revisit is that first scene when he meets his brother Georgie in the basement of the first film when Pennywise reveals himself to Bill.
Well, that one is more about him forgiving himself.
Yeah, but that was a huge revelation
for his whole thing. It was him blaming himself for not going with his brother because he lied about not wanting to play with him in the rain and things like that. And then it was all about forgiveness, forgiving himself, so he wouldn't feel so discouraged, and would give him a little more courage. And I love, with all the losers that was happening, it was just fantastic.
It brought back their childhood ability to believe.
Yeah.
That's what it was. You're gonna say it, and I'm sorry for cutting you off there.
No, go for it. No, don't worry about
it. So anyways, we cut to the other scenes, and one of my favorite ones was Richie. You could tell in his head he becomes more comfortable of who he is. And there was a scene where he comes out and he's like, "All right, Pennywise, I'm gonna F you up, I'm gonna kick your ass, and all of a sudden, deadlights.
That yippee-ki-yay moment.
Yeah, it's like,
yippee-ki-yay.
let's do this. Then just,
And it goes into this limp dead
yeah,
stare.
that was... Bill Hader is so good in this movie.
He's a scene stealer in this film, as far as I'm concerned.
He's between him and Skarsgård, they are the two best actors in this film, I think. Skarsgård? Yeah, Skarsgård. Yeah.
James McAvoy's pretty darn good, but in terms of scene stealing, like
he's not even top 5 for me.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
this entire series, the MVPs were definitely Skarsgård,
Yeah.
Bill Hader, and whoever played younger Richie.
Oh,
just
Yes.
Richie as a character was just so.
Yes, the kid from
good.
what do you call it? The show on Netflix. Stranger Things. Yeah. He's one of the main stars of Stranger Things.
I think all the kids stole, like, they nailed the roles perfectly.
They're
I think
so good.
Each of those kids should have a bright future in Hollywood. I
Oh,
would like
definitely,
to think,
definitely, yeah.
like, for sure.
So at this point, Richie is stuck in the air and he's kind of floating. You know, that's kind of a reoccurring theme in here.
Deadlights,
And then here comes Eddie. He takes that spear that was given to him by Beverly, just throws it like a javelin and gets Pennywise right in the mouth. And you think that Pennywise did because he's going down, he's stumbling. You know what I mean? He's semi-shrinking.
Impales himself. On
and one of the part of that crater. And Eddie goes to Richie and he's like, Richie, wake up! I did it! I killed Pennywise! I killed him! Blah blah blah. And nope, Pennywise comes right back up, stabs Eddie from behind, pretty much right through the chest.
So,
and we're like, oh, dude.
Safe to say the ritual chewed went nowhere in the end.
Yeah. So Eddie's on the floor. He's basically looks like he's gonna die. And then all the other losers start coming together. Like, all right, we have to make him. Basically, come to the revelation that they need to make him smaller, but it's because he's got to abide by some pretty much the laws of nature of whatever form he takes. He's got to abide by those laws, and they realize, okay, if they can make him smaller, a smaller form, he's going to be easier to kill. So as they're trying to escape to fit through these more smaller holes, he blocks off the path, and they're like, okay, well, we need to figure out how to make him smaller some way. So what do they start doing? They pretty much start talking smack. They say you're a sissy, you're nothing but a clown, you're not real, you're a hack, you're not even funny, you're a not unfunny clown. They pretty much start trash talking.
Who this clown?
That's really initially what they do. And Pennywise is like, he notices obviously they're not fearful anymore. And he could sense it. And obviously fear is a big part of his strength. And since there's no more fear, he starts getting weaker and starts getting smaller. His little spider tentacles start kind of going away. And so bad, he starts crawling back into the crater. And then shrivels up into almost like a little baby.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah.
The way he just kind of collapses into himself, like his head.
Yeah, he just becomes like jello and mush. It looked like mashed potatoes. And it was weird.
A mashed potato baby?
Yeah, it was with tentacles. It was really weird and creepy.
Bill Hader doing an alpha moment, by the way, jumping into that crater and just tearing off his lobster claw.
Yes. Oh, that was dope. Yeah. So they go in there, and you can tell all the losers are just not scared at all. And again, Bill Hader rips off one of his legs, and then Bill, the character Bill, goes in, sees them. You can tell that Pennywise is just like frightened. He has nothing left. And Bill just reaches into his chest and pulls out his still beating heart, and which was a really cool scene. I really like how they did this. He held the heart out, and then just realized that this is what we're gonna have to do to kill Pennywise. So he sticks out his hand in the little circle of the rest of the losers, and all of them start putting their hand on top of the heart, and they all start squeezing the heart together and pretty much crush the heart and smash it.
I like how you can still hear the heart accelerating as it's about to happen. Yeah. Like, though he's still feeling it, he's getting very scared himself.
Yeah. So they smash it, and then much like in the first film, you see Pennywise kind of flaking off, dusty like Thanos did. You know what I mean?
What a world!
So he fades away, and then Richie goes back to check on Eddie, and sure enough, Eddie is dead by this time. The whole place starts crumbling, this cave or cavern that they're in.
Eddie did have some great last words, though.
Oh,
yes.
Can't repeat it here, thanks to you two.
Yeah,
but
PG-13.
PG-13.
But he pretty much insinuates that he had sexual relations with Richie's mother. What were his dying words?
That's the best response. Goodbye to any bro.
That was
in
so
history
funny.
ever.
So Eddie's dead. The whole place starts crumbling around. They have to leave. Richie starts crying because he doesn't want to leave his friend behind. But eventually they escape. They climb all the way back out, and the house that they originally go into starts collapsing in itself. And it's just really gnarly. So what's the first thing they do right after that? They go into the lake that's from the first film, and they dive off that cliff into the lake and just start washing themselves off, cleaning up. And then it's, again, a throwback to their first film. And then they start having some, again, really good dialogue. They start having a little memories of Eddie. You know, Eddie never would have liked this because, you know, he was a kind of a germaphobe, and he's like, he would have never have been into swimming in this type of lake now, blah, blah, blah. And they look for Richie's glasses because they fell in the lake, and this is where we finally get a good kiss scene between Ben and Beverly. So now they finally hit it off, and it was really creepy because they kissed under that dirty lake, and I was like, ew.
I think for a long time.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy.
That's a flavorful kiss with that lake water.
Yeah. So they finally start huddling up, and Richie starts crying because he misses Eddie, and he didn't want Eddie to die. That was his best friend. And they kind of just start hugging it out right there in the lake. And then the next scene is pretty much them walking through Derry, kind of saying goodbye to the city. And as they're walking by one of the windows, they get a flashback to them as kids. And the kids are kind of just, you know, having kid banter and talking smack to each other and things like that.
It's what you saw from the first film. It was them crapping on each other.
It was exactly. It was a really good scene. And then the next thing after that, we get the closing scenes of all of them as adults, and we find out what they're doing now. Bill is finishing off a new book, and then that's when Mike calls them all up and, hey, have you read the letter? And then the last words are it's. He says it in the film, this is not a suicide letter, and it's a letter from Stanley that he mailed to the rest of the losers, saying, basically, I had to kill myself. I was so frightened. I could not have handled this. If I were to go with you guys, I would have been a liability, and you all would have been dead, and you guys would not have been able to kill Pennywise. So, in theory, he's kind of the hero, or one of the main heroes, again, of this story, because he knew he wouldn't have been able to do it, so he sacrificed himself so they could do it.
I mean, what a call to make.
Right.
You know, especially about yourself. You're like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to... I'm going to be the one that gets everybody killed.
Yeah. They all kind of failed at some point.
Yeah.
But
he was clearly the one that was most frightened. And again, this scene, like I said before, this is one of those things that shows that Stanley is such a deeper character and such a main character, even though he's dead in this film pretty much within the first, 10 minutes of the movie, that he's such a powerful character in this. And I just love how they executed that. And
the splicing of the flashbacks really helped keep his memory alive,
exactly,
too. He had some poignant scenes as a kid.
So that's pretty much how the movie ends, and it ends with all of them reading his letter. And then we find out Mike, which is the black kid, he decides to finally leave Derry after these years. Pennywise is dead. His business is done there. And we see him pretty much driving off into the sunset, and then we get credits. So, first of all, I love the casting. I thought the casting for the older losers was perfect. I loved everything that they did. I love the kids.
I heard the way they casted the adults. I'm not sure how true this is, but if it's true, it's a perfect way to do it. They basically asked the kids
who they think. Yeah, who they think
would be you as an adult.
I heard the same thing.
And they somehow got the exact people that they said.
Well, whoever they did a great job. That I just loved it. Again, Bill Skarsgård was an incredible actor. Again, we had so many Pennywise emphasis as an actor.
You never get sick of him.
Yeah, he was so incredible. I loved every last bit of it.
And you're never not terrified by him. As much as he does show up.
Even if it's playful, you're still like, oh my god, this is really scary.
Because you kind of get scared halfway. I mean, I kind of got scared halfway through that. He'll be there so much that you get tired of him that you won't get scared.
And what I like is that you get that way. I mean, you see him, and you know that he's such a wild card. The things you've seen in this movie, like we said, it gets a little fantastical, you know. So you're just like, oh crap, there he is. What's it going to be this time?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, definitely.
No, yeah. So, okay, so we're gonna rank this movie now from 1 to 5. So first and foremost, I want to ask you guys, did you like this one better than the first one?
There are the first chapters, or we talking about chapters or adaptations?
First chapter.
I can. For me, they're the same project. They're the same movie.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely one thing I would have liked to have seen. Two things I would have liked to have seen. One, the giant tortoise that kind of gives them. They
I would not have liked to see that.
No,
I'm good without that, to be honest with you.
I think it could have been done in the tripping scene.
Because
Yeah,
You know,
I can see
that would have been
Yeah.
the only time it could have happened.
Well,
Where
because-
they just allude to it.
Because
there
the
were all
giant
these
turtle-
like visuals and creatures that he was seeing.
Yeah.
Maybe it was
But
in there. We just didn't notice right away.
The thing is that the giant turtle is its adversary.
Yeah.
That's his
Yeah.
his Joker or his
Yeah.
Batman.
I
His
mean,
Joker.
you get a big ass demonic Paul Bunyan statue. I guess it's not that far fetched.
Well, that still happens in
Yeah,
the book.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So-
On top of that, the ritual of Chud was different too, because the ritual of Chud is actually a battle within their minds. They meet in some kind of like Bill and it meet up in some kind of negative zone world in their heads, and that's where they see the truth from. I would like to have seen that done, and I would have liked to have seen, and for my own personal thing, because I was a big fan of Bill, you know, my name and all. I would like to have seen his wife included more, because in the books she does get kidnapped by Pennywise, and that is a key
Yeah.
part where he has to face
Yeah.
Pennywise to rescue her.
Maybe it'll happen in part 3.
And it plays into the
Yeah,
whole
right.
it plays into the whole love triangle,
Yeah.
because in the end Bill is actually more happier with his wife in the end. Because of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So what did you think compared to the chapter 1? How did you like it?
Compared to chapter 1, I thought it was equally as good as 1.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm actually right there with you. I don't think it was better. I don't think it was worse by any means.
No.
You know what I mean? I think it was right on the level. So I love how they kept a steady pace. Again, I liked it especially because they kept that. They gave the adults a good amount of time, but at the same time they gave the kids a good amount of screen time and whatnot. I loved that.
Yeah, I was afraid
So-
we weren't going to get any of the kids. And like
Yeah.
you said,
Because you fall in love with the kids in the first
Yeah.
film.
Well, I feel like we were going to get very little of the kids,
Or-
but we got a good amount.
Well, and I was afraid like it was just going to be all just flashbacks. We've all seen me.
And
before,
I
but
do
we
love
saw
the fact that
new stuff.
they end the film on the kids.
Yeah.
The way we want to see them happy with
So
kids.
then, on a ranking system from 1 to 5, what would you give this movie?
I'd give, because like I said, I see them as kind of like Kill Bill, the same movie, cut in half. For me, the complete anthology, I guess. I give it. What was the score?
1 to 5.
1 to 5. I give it a 5, a perfect 5.
Okay, what about you?
I could do both movies separately. So just for this movie though, chapter 2, I would definitely give it a 4.5.
Okay, so you know what? Yeah, I think I'm right there about a 4.5. I don't give a perfect score because I feel they could have done a little more towards the books. Not a whole lot. I mean, this is practically a 3-hour movie, so they could have
Yeah.
done a whole lot. This would have been
It should have been a
longer
miniseries.
movie.
It could have been a miniseries if they actually like stuck to the source material. But you
They
can't
could
do
have
that.
easily broken it down into a miniseries like on Netflix, where they didn't have the rating systems like on regular TV.
Or
I
just-
think that would have been awesome.
Or just do what they did with The Hobbit and make it into 3 films.
yeah. Oh my goodness, that'd be crazy.
But then again, that second film will be really dark.
So I think it was a great movie. Again, I'm not here trying to compare it to the first one. I think the first one was amazing, and I think this one was equally amazing. I don't think it was any less. I don't think some people are trying to compare it, but they don't need to compare it since it's the exact same story. It's not a
It's just
sequel.
a continuation.
It's just a continuation. Yeah, so that's why I'm not really trying to divide them so much like other people are. I think it's just like Will saying, it's one whole contained story. This is just what happens later on. You know, it's not two different entirely different storylines. So I'm kind of trying to see it as the whole story of it, and I would personally rank it a 4.5. And loved it. We saw it in IMAX. We saw the first movie right before we went to go see part 2. So we had pretty much an it day, and it was a lot of fun. Again, I thought this was a great movie. So if you do get the chance, I highly recommend going and seeing it.
One thing I do I hope they do, this whole like multiverse thing that movie companies seem to be wanting to do now. They just gotta somehow tie it into Doctor Sleep, and any other future adaptations they do, because Doctor Sleep is supposed to.
I think there's a definitely damn good possibility that could happen, considering how much Bill Skarsgård loves to do Stephen King work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen Castle Rock, but he's great in that too.
Well, there's this theory that Pennywise himself is kind of influencing the entire macroverse of Stephen King's universe.
So I definitely think it's within the realm of possibility for them to do like a little cinematic universe.
Hopefully, because they botched Dark Castle. Dark Castle is
yeah.
my favorite Stephen King
Well,
thing, and they botched
I don't think Dark Castle is part of the same movie company as Doctor Sleep and this one.
Well, he says all of those are supposed to be in
No,
part
I
of the
think
same
it
world.
No, I'm saying same movie company.
Yeah, WB.
Oh,
I
is
think
it
they're both.
Yeah,
they're all owned by WB.
Yeah.
I mean, if WB wants to do a multiverse, Stephen King's the one you do it in.
Yeah, you would hope so. But anyways, that's our review of It Chapter 2. Thank you guys for listening to this. I thought, again, it was a great movie. Definitely worth your time. It is a long movie. You might have to hold yourself going to the restroom for a bit. I know I did for the last hour and a half of the movie, but definitely worth the watch. I absolutely enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it. So, again, thank you to my co-hosts, Will the Thrill and Adrian 3000. Say goodbye, fellas.
Goodbye, guys. You guys have a good one.
All right, thanks everybody for listening.
All right, guys. So please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Stay nerdy, my friends. Peace.